And so begins one of the most famous, or infamous, depending on who you're asking, melodies in classical music, the theme from Paganini's Violin Caprice No. 24, a difficult work that has become a sort of litmus test of a violinist's technical and musical capabilities. Except that was no violin. The soloist is bassist Dominik Wagner, who created his own original rendition of this virtuosic piece and arranged it for bass. Other movements continue in this manner. The upright bass in classical music is usually an instrument that stays in the background, grounding the harmonies for an orchestra. While in the world of jazz, upright bass solos are fairly common, it is far less common to see a bassist take on the role of soloist and virtuoso in the classical world. But Dominik is interested in changing this perception of the instrument and has the skills and experience to back it up. Today, on episode 4 of Between Movements, I'll be talking to Dominik about his life as a touring musician. Already in his early 20s, he has won one of the major bass competitions and has performed, recorded, and taught all over the world. I had the pleasure of meeting him earlier this summer, where we recorded a few pieces together. We'll be hearing a couple of those pieces and talk about Dominik's philosophy of music making, education, concertizing, and much more, so stick around because this is definitely a conversation that you won't want to miss. So, you just came back from tour, right?
Yes, a tour, I would say a little tour for like 2 weeks through Europe.
Okay.
Not Europe, Germany and Austria, basically.
Was that solo or was that chamber music?
Different stuff, actually. First concert was in the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, and we played the Brahms clarinet trio, and I also played a solo piece. The next concerts were like 5 in a row actually. The first 4 were only Schubert. Like we played the Trout and we played the G major piano sonata, the 18th sonata with string sextet instead of piano.
Cool.
And it worked incredibly well. The arrangement was really well done, so that was really fun. And we played Die Schöne Müllerin, the songs with tenor and string quintet.
Oh,
and
nice.
then the last concert was again like different combinations, some chamber music, some solo, some trios, duos, whatever. Like then, and now I have a little break with concerts, but I'm still doing stuff, organizing stuff, rehearsing for future concerts, and preparing basically.
Keeping busy.
Yes.
It's good when a musician has a lot of work lined up. So I was talking to my friend actually about this the other day, about how most musicians have a certain moment when they decide they want to be a musician. Was it like that for you? Did you have a certain moment when you thought, this is really what I want to do, or did it just happen?
Well, I think for me it went gradually. I started with cello originally when I was around 4. And then when I was 10, I changed to bass. And back then I didn't think about doing it professionally. It was just for fun. And then actually what started motivating me were videos on YouTube, like, of the big famous bassists in the US or in Europe, like Edixon Ruiz, Katalin Rotaro, Jeff Braditich also. And those videos, well, they opened a new world for me. I saw, wow, the bass can do stuff like that. It can sound beautiful in the upper registers. You have so many possibilities and also a big repertoire actually. And I did not know that before, so that motivated me to practice more. And then after some time, I just noticed apparently my playing got better from practicing. Who would have guessed? And then I thought, it got to the level where I thought, now I'm going to do the big competitions. And since they also worked out, I was pretty sure I would be able to do it professionally. And since I enjoyed it a lot, that's the reason why I did it, why not try to do it professionally?
Yeah, you and I met after was it a competition for the Braditich Foundation that you won?
Yes, it's like in the US, I would say it's probably the biggest bass competition.
Nice.
It's just the second time it occurred like in 2017 in September. And it was a crazy level at that competition. I don't know how, but somehow I noticed with competitions, it's always about having the luck that at the moment of the competition you play or you meet the taste of the jury, or you come closest to the taste of the jury to do what they like, And if they like how you play, and then you have a chance. And apparently they liked how I play. And also I was lucky because it wasn't only bassists, there were cellists, there were conductors, and that is always a big plus because I bassists often, I mean, it's understandable. They play one way their whole life, and then they say, okay, this is the way, this is the one only right, correct way. And then, then it's purely about luck in the end in a competition. But if you have some people who've got a little more distance from the instrumental perspective, who think more about the music that's happening, then yeah, that was a big luck in general about the competition. Like, if you look at the finals there on YouTube, the 4 people who play there, they play completely different. Technically and also visually, you see the way they hold the instrument, or they stand, or they sit. It's crazy. It's totally different. And I think that's great. It's the only competition in which I ever saw this. In Europe, it's always the same kind of stuff that people want. In Italy, they want this. In France, they want this. In Germany, they want this. You kind of know what they want. But yeah, that was pretty cool with the British competition. They were way more free, I would say, way more open-minded.
I think that's interesting that you mentioned the whole luck aspect, because I think a lot of people doing competitions take it way too seriously. If they don't win, it's shattering for them. I remember 2 competitions that I did when I was in, one in my undergrad and one on my master's degree. And the one in my undergrad, I made it to, I guess, the finals, but the girl who won had multiple memory slips like throughout her piece, and completely stopped, like just straight out stopped about 3 times during the pieces, had to restart. And it just was a mess. She ended up winning first place, and I remember seeing the audience look at one another like, what's going on? And then later on, actually a few hours later, I was driving through the town and I saw her having lunch with the judges and laughing with them like she knew them really well. And then in my master's degree, I remember the girl who won, after she won this concerto competition, she didn't expect to win. She told me, I didn't think I would win. I don't even know the whole concerto. And she was really nervous. It didn't turn out really well. And later on, the conductor asked her out. So there was like definitely a conflict of interest. So those things kind of opened my eyes to, wow, this whole competition world is...
Yeah, so. I think I never experienced something like that, where it's... I mean, I experienced the craziest things with people's actual tastes. People actually like something that I would not like at all, But seeing something like that where the prize gets decided by something that absolutely has nothing to do with playing or music or taste, but just, maybe taste, but not in music, but in... looks.
yeah. Well, I mean, not to diminish, your playing, I mean, is very, very good. And I'm glad it worked out for you, because you were able to, get the recording was part of that, right? Part of winning?
Yes, and quite a few concerts. And also I started teaching at masterclasses, which is also really fun for me. And I mean, I have to say, in this competition I won, but, I did I did more than 10 big competitions. And, it's... I'm also kind of, I stopped after that one though, because I'm like, okay, it won't get better than that. Yeah, but part of the prize of that competition, was on the one hand, quite a few concerts. In season 2021, I'm gonna perform a recital at Carnegie Hall. I'm really looking forward to that. And I started teaching at a masterclass that Jeff organized in 2018, so last summer actually. And this June I was teaching again at the UNT, and now I got asked for more and more masterclasses, and on an international basis. I gave a masterclass in Austria, and I gave a masterclass in London this summer too. So, and I really enjoy teaching actually, and apparently most of the times it also seems to be interesting or useful for the students. So, and that again motivates me even more to teach.
Yeah.
So that is a new world that opened for me kind of through that competition.
Teaching sort of keeps you on your toes. It makes you have to practice what you preach.
Yes, exactly. I had one masterclass this summer in the one in Austria, where I had some seriously good students. One of them even competed at the British competition too, and he got to the semifinal round. He's like a fantastic bassist, and I noticed in those lessons at the beginning, I thought, how will I be able to, you know, say something useful to those guys, because they already play really good.
Yeah.
But in the end, it made my mind, my hearing and everything so much sharper that, yeah, it helped me tremendously with my own playing. It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so as far as traveling goes, I mean, especially I think about bass, you have like the biggest instrument.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the difficulties in as far as traveling is concerned? Or is it difficult, or have you gotten used to it?
It depends. I have to say it is seriously exhausting quite often. Flying is always a risk. That's the biggest problem. You know, most of my concerts are in Europe, and with Europe in this case I mean Austria, Germany, Italy, maybe the closer Eastern European countries, Switzerland sometimes, maybe Denmark, Holland. But you know, these are all places where I can take the train, and maybe it's like 15 hours maximum. And that's okay, you know, with the train, at least the bass is safe if you're careful.
Mm-hmm.
But with the plane, you put it in a flight case. The flight case is, you know, has a very hard outside, and it's impossible to break it basically. But the biggest problem is if the bass gets broken, it's not during the flight, it's during the time when it gets put into the plane and when it gets brought from the plane to the luggage area. And that's the time when some people drop it or something. You know, in some airports, the baggage part of the airplane, it's like 5 meters above the ground, and in some airports they just take the bass out and drop it, those 5 meters. They just let it fall. And if that happens, even though the case is stable as hell, the bass is gonna be destroyed. And recently I actually learned, like, because I was always wondering, the bigger orchestras, they always do all the tours with their basses, and they never get destroyed, or almost never. And I always wondered, how is that possible? I mean, the biggest orchestras like Vienna Philharmonic or Berlin Philharmonic, they have their own planes.
Really?
Like if they have a Asia tour, often they have their own plane.
I did not know that.
So okay, that's then okay, you know, you can be careful. But actually, all the big orchestras have one person who has the permit to go and unload all the instruments from the airplane. So it's not somebody from the airport. It's somebody from the orchestra that works with the orchestra that unloads the basses and all that stuff. So, and probably also tuba, and you know, I think there are a few instruments that need to be checked in. So that is basically how it works. But you know, if you're privately doing this, yeah, it can always happen that you get a few pieces of wood back, but not a bass. I had serious problems. Once in Singapore, actually didn't break, but the climate was crazy. It was so hot and humid that the bass was completely wet when I opened the flight case at the airport. Oof. And that had the result that the glue of the fingerboard just stopped sticking. You know, the fingerboard of the bass fell off.
Oh gosh.
And well, you know, fortunately, sometimes social media is a good thing. In this case, it absolutely is. I just posted a picture on Facebook, and 5 minutes later I had a contact to a bassist in Singapore who brought me immediately to a violin maker, or a violin luthier. I have a better word. And then we were there, and I asked, you know, what time does it take to glue on the fingerboard again? He was like, yeah, 2 days. But I'm like, wow, you know, my concert is tomorrow evening. Yeah, I can do it in 1 day too, but then it won't stick as good. And then I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? I was so afraid during the concert that the fingerboard would fall off, but it didn't, fortunately. And yeah, once after a Japan tour, my bass was destroyed at a few places. Yeah, I couldn't play on it anymore. Like for a month, it needed to be repaired. And that was a nightmare, seeing the bass, you know, with huge cracks. And yeah, so flying, I try to avoid it as much as possible. But even, you know, the trains, it's always, you know, sometimes it take a train for like 15 hours a day, you know, or different trains. And it is incredibly exhausting, I have to say. I'm jealous to all the violinists, cellists, even cello, you know, second seat. It's
we have pianists, it easier than anybody.
You don't have to carry your instrument, but you don't have your own instrument.
Right.
You kind of, well, if you're successful or whatever, you can be pretty sure you have a good instrument. But maybe you only like Steinway and they don't have the Steinway you like, they only have Bösendorfer or whatever, you know.
Right. You never know. It's a total gamble when you walk up to the piano how good it's going to be. Sometimes you even have strings that aren't working, hammers aren't working. I played a concert actually recently, and right before the concert, almost the entire bass section of the piano, the dampers were broken and it would just continue ringing. Oh. So the damper wouldn't actually go down. So they were able to call a piano tech literally right before the concert, maybe half an hour before he finally got it all fixed. But I was wondering if I'd have to cancel it or what. So these kinds of things happen too for us, but it's not our instrument, so that's not my problem. For you,
yeah, but you know, it's your problem when you play.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, that's also complicated. Or singers, man, they don't need to carry an instrument, but if they get sick, they are basically screwed. Mm-hmm. I just witnessed that. We played the Schubert songs with an amazing singer now, but he got sick and then he had to cancel. And that's that's something I don't think about, because I've played many concerts sick, many times, and during our recordings.
That's right. That's right. You had that
seriously sick. I had crazy headache and everything. Yeah,
because you were staying in this dorm room where there was no hot water, right?
And also, like, it was seriously cold, and I couldn't like change the AC or anything. It was really cold. And only had like one really thin blanket, so I slept, with my jacket and everything on.
Oh, jeez.
And I still got sick because it was just way too cold. And then, I couldn't take a shower because, I did at the beginning. And then, but it was horrible, like absolutely ice cold, not little cold. If it's a little cold, it's okay, but like ice cold water. And then the rest of the room is cold. And then you're already really sick. And then I got headache, like crazy headache. That was, I felt so horrible. But then Jeff gave me some medicine, and then the recordings went well, I would say.
Well, let's go ahead and hear one of those recordings from the session where I recorded with Dominik. This is a piece by David Popper entitled Polonaise de Concert. This was originally written for cello, actually, and Dominik has again taken it and arranged it for bass. Touring is an adventure.
Oh yeah.
Like this choir tour that I just played, there was one place we went to, I think for about 50 people, we had to stay at this church and there was one shower. So everyone just had to rotate. A lot of people ended up not taking showers, and then we're in a bus and it stinks. It's
oh.
yeah, but
yeah, for me it got to the point I'm now, I did crazy, really uncomfortable projects so often that now I'm like, I mean, on the one hand, it's always about the music, but sometimes if everything around the music is so shitty, like the whole traveling and accommodation situation, then I started, like 1 or 2 years ago, I started seriously canceling even some projects that I would have liked to do. For example, now I had the offer to play a solo concerto with an orchestra in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't fly to Ukraine with my bass. It's like there's some countries, some airports where they're okay. The bigger airports in Germany, Vienna is okay. The bigger airports in the US are most of the time okay. But, you always ask people, always ask bassists from certain areas of the world, how are their experiences flying? For example, China is like so risky with the bass that you get it back in one piece. It's almost impossible. And Ukraine, no chance. And renting a bass there for solo, a good one, no chance. So I thought, I would have to take the train, and it was like 35 hours train.
Oh my gosh.
And then I canceled it because, no way, like 35 hours with the train for a concert. I mean, it would have been a nice concert, but we always, for bassists playing solo with orchestra, it's always a big thing, but 35 hours with the train, or flying and the risk, or renting a probably shitty bass,
yeah,
well,
it's the things. It's not a glamorous thing, but this actually brings me to a question, which I kind of want your opinion on this. A lot of musicians talk about recording versus playing live, and in recording is nice, but these days it's very difficult to make money off of recordings. So a lot of musicians that I talk to say that all the money, or most of their money, is made from live concerts. Have you found this to be the case?
I absolutely have to say, like maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, it was still possible to make money from recordings, but nowadays, no chance.
Yeah.
You don't make any money from recordings. Mm-hmm. But I still like doing recordings. I think it's a totally different form of art than a concert. A concert is way more spontaneous. In a recording, you kind of get your idea as well pronounced as possible out there. It's you play your piece many times, and then you know what you want to say with it, kind of. And then if you're like really sure, this is what I want to say with this piece, then you can record it and get exactly that done. You can exactly get what you want with the piece. In a live concert, for me, it's so important to be way more spontaneous. In a live concert, yeah. I wanna. It's about the moment. It's absolutely about the moment. That's why I'm also not the biggest fan of live recordings, because you play differently if you in a concert, if it's being recorded or if it's no recording. That's the thing. I mean, it's not like I don't like listening to live recordings. I do a lot of other people. But if I play it live and it's being recorded, and I know it's like for television or for radio or something, it's I don't play the same. I don't feel the same. I don't have the freedom to be as crazy or not crazy as I want to be with whatever it is that I'm playing. So in the end, the money you make as a classical musician, I think in pop, hip-hop, probably that's I think probably the most popular genre right now. You can still make a lot of money from recording. And also, you see that the difference that the labels often, they are the ones who are also organizing the concerts. With classical music, that's totally different. That the labels that publish the CDs or your music online, they don't really organize your concerts. You have your contact to the label you're working with, then maybe to a PR agent, then maybe also to a concert agency, and that's many different channels.
Yeah. I find sometimes when I play live, what I think are the best live concerts, where audience interaction is great, there's that connection and just the energy and everyone's excited about it. Sometimes those don't translate into good recordings.
That's true, yeah.
It's funny. The energy is totally different. But also with recording, what I love about it is I feel like it sharpens my ear in a completely different way, because you're listening back to the takes and you think it sounds a certain way, and then you're forced with the reality, no, this is actually how it sounds. You can see the waveform, you can see the actual sound itself, and it just doesn't lie. Yeah. It's like staring into a mirror really hard.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastically horrible.
Yeah.
It's brutal sometimes. Yeah, but I absolutely like recording, because the thing is, you could break your hand at any day. You could have problems if you're playing. Something can happen all the time, but a recording, it's there. Mm-hmm. It's recorded. Especially now if you upload a recording on let's say YouTube, everyone all over the world can watch it, has access to it, and yeah, it's not like a CD that you can lose. It's there. It's even if you choose to set it on private so nobody can see it anymore, you can still see it. And for me, that is kind of, if I say, okay, with this piece, I think I got something to say that's worth listening to in the recorded form. And it's obviously that's different in a concert, but if I play the piece many, many times, then maybe I get to the point one day where I'm like, yes, this piece I think I can record, and I think it might actually be worth listening to. And yeah, then I actually really like recording it. It's like finishing, or not finishing. Even the pieces we recorded, I play them differently now.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you play a computer game, you get a certain save file. That's you accomplished a lot with it, and you got it now.
Yeah.
You got this, and you cannot lose it anymore.
Yes. So one thing I definitely am interested in talking to you about is music college. And I think all the podcasts that I've done so far always, at least in some way, go back to this because it's such an interesting issue. How much of music school have you actually done?
When I started the bass, I was 10, and when I was 12, I started getting lessons at the university in Vienna for 6 years.
You were 10 when you started bass?
The bass, yeah. And when I was 12, I started getting lessons at the University of Vienna. Not like a bachelor studies, like a special program. If you're lucky, I just got the lessons with the teachers, and I didn't need to do any music theory back then. Obviously, with 12, you cannot do that stuff. And then I was in Vienna for 6 years and at the university, and then I went to Nuremberg. In Germany, it's near Munich, and there I did 1 year of the same kind of studying, and then I finished school. I finished high school. Then I started studying bachelor's, and now I'm officially in the 4th year of bachelor. I would try to get some kind of degree, but it's very difficult because I'm not able to be at the school so often because of the concerts I play, and they unfortunately are not very cooperative. I often had situations where teachers said, well, if you play so many concerts, why are you even studying anymore then? And I'm like, maybe because there's a fantastic teacher here, or maybe because I would need a degree. Maybe I want to teach one day myself, and officially you need at least a bachelor and probably a master's degree to teach at the university officially. Sometimes some universities, if you're a really good instrumentalist and a really good teacher, they make exceptions. And if you had a really big career, sometimes they make exceptions. But most, and some universities, some do not. They do not care about your qualities, your career. No, they want a degree. So I really want to try to get a degree, but it's difficult. And yeah, for most jobs, you don't need it. If you play concerts, you don't need a degree.
Right.
If you play in an orchestra, if you want to win an orchestra audition, they will not care about your degree. You need to play good. If you play good, then yeah, sure. If you do the big competitions, they do not care about your degree also. The only thing where you need the degree is, if you want to teach. And in Europe, at least. I don't know how it is in the US if you need degrees for orchestra auditions. I'm not so well informed when it comes to that, but it's difficult, to get that if you're not there.
I remember you saying this and thinking about it when you were when we were doing the recordings, and you said you wanted to go finish your degree, but you were too busy with touring and recording and giving concerts. And I thought that's so ironic, because the whole reason most of us do performance careers is because we want to perform. But I think this is something that the colleges are going to have to figure out.
Absolutely.
Especially moving forward into the future, because times are changing. Like we said, giving concerts is so important if you want to make money. So we're going to need to figure out a way to work that in.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that well, I think it's a fact that the most important thing for becoming a good musician, for being able to perform live and make music live, the most important thing you need is experience. I think it's the same in most areas of life. Mm-hmm. Most important thing for most things is actually experience. To do stuff. If you wanna, let's say, if you wanna become a great violinist, just practicing, having a lesson once a week, and maybe twice a year you have a class concert and that's it, that will never make you really good. If you don't play other concerts, if you don't do chamber music with different people, if you don't play a lot of repertoire also live, and especially also chamber music. Like, I learned so much from that. I play like 30-40 chamber music concerts a year, and now and then I see, this violinist, he does this. Oh, that's amazing. Maybe I should do that too. Or maybe this cellist, he plays this place like that. That's a really good idea. Maybe I could use this, That's the thing. You build up your own identity as a musician through experiencing music in different ways with different people. And this experience, you can only get through actually making music with people and performing. And unfortunately, sometimes the universities work against that.
Right.
In the end, they forget that, they say, this is our system, and why should we make it different for different people? And I understand that argument, I totally do. But on the other hand, if you kind of disencourage people to, play concerts, if you want them to just be in the city, at the school all the time, that will not make them good musicians. And in the end, why do you study?
Right.
Not to get a degree, but to become a good musician, actually. That's the end goal. Maybe I'm studying to get a degree, but no, but also to become a better musician, though, because my teacher is fantastic in Nuremberg, so I can still learn a lot. That's also the thing,
Yeah, it's definitely important to know a lot about music, to study it, to know the history, to know the theory. So I understand why we need to do a lot of these things, but again, at the same time, there needs to be a better balance. One of the biggest misconceptions I had going into college, and I think a lot of people, is assuming that by becoming a performance major, it will open up opportunities and doors for you to perform. And I have to say, after almost finishing 3 degrees, it has not. It has opened up very, very few doors. A lot of what I've had to do on the side, just through networking, talking to people, calling people, just agreeing to do even free concerts and things like this. So I'm actually optimistic, though. I think it will change in the future. We have in America the problem of college being so expensive. It's not anywhere near that in Europe, but because of that,
you don't pay at all, actually. In Germany and in Austria, you don't pay if you study at the university.
Right.
But you need to be able to speak German, though. That's the thing. You need if you like come from a different country, you need a certain certificate, like B1 certificate of German. But then studying at universities is actually free, and
That's
I think
amazing.
education should be free. Like I'm lucky, you know. Where I'm from, it's like education and healthcare is considered a basic human. These are considered basic human rights, and everyone has access to them. Everyone, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, and that's pretty amazing, actually. And I think it should be the case everywhere. But
yeah, I wish America is going to have a very, very interesting next 10 years.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's very common for students to graduate with, you know, $100,000, $150,000 of debt, that's
horrible,
you know, you can
yeah.
buy houses for that money.
You need 10 or 20 years to pay that off.
Mm-hmm.
In most, or even longer. You know, depends on
A whole
what you're
lifetime
studying.
for some people.
Oh my god.
So, oh yeah, another thing is both of your parents are musicians, right?
Yeah.
You played one of your father's compositions at the house concert that we did.
Yes.
And your mom, what does she do?
She's a cellist, and she plays the viola da gamba.
Oh, nice. So she does early music stuff too.
Yes.
How did that affect you growing up, you know, coming from a musical family? Was it difficult, or was it good? Do you think it helped you?
Well, I think there's so many different ways of growing up in a musician's family. Some parents kind of force their kids, you know, they say, yeah, you have to learn this instrument and you have to practice 3 hours a day or 4 hours or 5 or 6, whatever. And yeah, they really force them when they're kids to practice and to do that, even if they don't want to. I know people like that, and most times the kids stop playing when they're like 14. As soon as they get the authority for themselves, or at least as soon as they get the allowance to decide for themselves, they stop often. If they come from a family where it's like, you do that, or you just do it. You need to play and you need to practice. In my case, I was lucky. It was never that way. I would say the biggest way that my parents, being musicians, influenced me was that it gave me the idea to learn an instrument. You know, I learned the cello. Well, I wanted to learn the cello actually way earlier than I did, because I always heard my mother practice, and I always loved it. I always loved the sound of the cello, and I still do. And then I think I was like 3 or something, and I said, I want to learn cello now. Then she tried to find an instrument that's, the right size for a 3-year-old kid, but she only found one that sounded so bad that I had to wait a little more. And finally, when I was like 4.5 years old, something like that, I could finally start learning the cello. And I mean, in my earlier years, and I didn't practice that much. I practiced daily. My mom was like, if we pay for music school, then you at least practice 20 minutes a day. Like, yes. I mean, okay, 20 minutes a day, you can do that. I mean, it's if we rent an instrument and pay for the lessons, then you at least do that. And I mean, that's okay. That's not so much. And most of the time, I mean, in some days as a kid you don't wanna, but in most days it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, of course, it started to become more and more the older I got. And when I was like 13, 14, then I started practicing many hours a day. And yeah, I remember, often in musicians' families that the parents say, practice more. In my case, it was like, oh, come on, please stop practicing. We want some quiet. You've been practicing all day long. Please stop. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Well, that's good though that you had that balanced approach. I taught many years in like the Chinatown of Queens, New York, and a lot of my students were in the situation where they were forced to. Like a very Asian parent thing. My mom's also Asian, but she didn't force me. She was much more balanced than most. I did it because I loved it. I mean, she would like you're saying, remind me, like, we're paying for lessons, you got to practice. She would remind me these things, and I'm glad she did, but it was never like compulsory thing. And every one of the students that I've had that were forced to, they just hated it.
Absolutely. I see that so often, yeah.
When music becomes something you have to do, it just robs all the fun out of it, and it's unfortunate.
It's not music. It's not music then. It's just playing an instrument. But it's not making music then.
But what I found even more interesting, and I didn't know this is until I began teaching, a lot of the parents that forced their kids to learn didn't even really know a thing about music or didn't listen to music. I would ask these kids, so what music you listen to? I don't know. I don't listen to music. Or what does your family listen to? What are your parents like? Oh, they don't listen to music. And I began talking to all my students' parents like, it would be a good idea if you like start playing music in the background at least, or have music going.
Yeah, that they get a natural approach. If you have it in your ear, it's crazy how much you can learn instinctively as a kid by listening.
Right.
I mean, I think, I'm sure that I learned so much just from listening to my parents make music. And I learned a lot. Also, we played a lot of chamber music. My sister used to, she still plays the viola now and then, but she used to play more often. Now she's studying biotechnology and international economy engineer.
Wow.
So finally something useful, No, but yeah, we used to play a lot of chamber music and together, and that also helped me a lot. And yeah, just listening to music, it's so helpful. I used to listen for like 2 or 3 hours a day to different cellists recordings. That's what kind of gave me my taste for music.
Yeah, my parents, they loved music. My dad, he was like an amateur pianist, so he took lessons when he was young. He never became professional, but as I grew up, there would always be music in the house. They'd always be listening to and various styles of music. But if you're not doing that, I think in your younger years, and definitely by middle school and high school, if you're not a lover of music, I don't think you should go into it, because by that point, I mean, if you don't love the thing, it's not the kind of career where you can just do it on the side and like, okay, well, this is something I do. No, you need to be pretty serious. You need to
burn for it, basically.
Yeah.
You need to have passion for it. I mean, I for me, it was, when I was like 13, 14, I started realizing how much I actually love the bass and me making music with the bass. And music in general. I mean, again, mostly I listen to cellists because there are more good cellists than there are good bassists.
Yeah.
Although there are quite a few really good bassists, and it's becoming more and more. But yeah, the cello has a way bigger market. Yeah, so that helped me realize, oh yeah, I love this, I really do. And then I got passionate about it. And you need to be, because you work basically for like 20 years, many hours a day, to get a job that in the end, I mean, some things you study like for, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years at the university, and then you get paid better than most musicians ever get paid.
Yeah.
It's like if you think about how much work it is and how much you get paid in the normal situation. Of course, if you look at, I don't know, Barenboim, Anne-Sophie Mutter, Yo-Yo Ma, and these people, it's ridiculous what amounts of money they get. But for the average musician, if you think about how much work they put into it and how much money they get out in the end, it's absolutely not worth it.
Yeah.
But it can be if you think about it this way. But if you think about it in a way that music is the thing you love and you get paid for doing that, well, and it can be pretty nice.
Yeah. And you have to think too about all the lessons as a kid that your parents, paid for.
Oh yeah.
That's years and years of investment of time and money and energy. But I don't regret it. When I look back at my life and all these experiences I've had, the places I've traveled, the interesting people. It's been a way for me to connect to the world. I would not have that if I was working an office job. I think I would actually be very, very depressed if I was working an office job.
Well, I think it depends on the office job and on the colleagues you have, I think, and on whatever it is you have going on besides that. I mean, then, that's a job. There are jobs, and then there are careers, and then there are things you do with passion. I think this, and if you can combine career, passion, and job, money, can be nice if it works out.
Yes. It's a big if.
Yes, it is.
Glad it's been working out for you. I think we'll probably wrap this up. Thanks so much again.
Sure. It was really fun.
You have any interesting things coming up in the future?
Nothing I can officially announce at the moment. I mean, I'm probably currently I'm working on some stuff that might be interesting soon, but at the moment, it's nothing I can say for sure yet.
Is there
just playing concerts?
Okay. Is there a good way for anyone who's listening to check out your music? You have like a website, or what's the best place?
Sure. You can. I think the best place to check out my music is on YouTube. Just type in my name, Dominik Wagner, and you will find our recordings, for example.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The best way. Either you come to my concerts, but that's why I make those videos. It's because I found out through social media that there are actually quite a few bassists who like listening to my playing, who live in Asia or in South America, and they will maybe never in their lives hear me play actually in a concert. And it's the same for me. There's some cellists I admire that I have never had the chance to listen to live in a concert. I just listen to their CDs or to their recordings on YouTube, especially to those, because I also like watching the playing, obviously. So I think the best way, if you cannot listen to me playing in a concert live, you can watch some videos on YouTube.
All right, sounds good. Okay, Dominik, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck for your future music making.
Good luck to you too.
So I'll go ahead and leave you guys with one more recording from our session. This is a piece by Edvard Grieg, originally for violin, from the Sonata for Violin and Piano number 3, opus 45. This is the second movement, the Allegretto, which Dominik has taken again and arranged for bass.